Okay, so if you are a foreign investor and you own U.S. properties, or you're considering buying U.S. properties, and you're looking for some positive leverage, or you're trying to refinance to cash out some of your U.S. investment properties, I'm going to show you a trick where you can buy U.S. properties with better finance terms than even U.S. investors who are buying with leverage. And you're going to see how this works in a second. So there's a right way to do this and a wrong way to do it. We're going to tell you what that is in a second. But my name is John. I've been doing real estate for 22 years, and I work with foreign investors. I got my friend here, Robin. I'm going to turn the camera on him here in a second. But he's going to tell you his nightmare as a foreign investor who owns 6 residential properties in the U.S. He's owned them for years, and he tried to do a simple refinance on properties that you would think with seasoned income would be easy to do that. So he's going to tell you about that nightmare, and then we're going to bring it back around, and I'm going to show you how this finance mechanism works for you.
So as John said, I have more than 6 properties in the US, and the actual concept of having property and real estate in the US is fantastic. But for me to refinance them, the challenges that I had to go through, and the way in which I was baited into saying I could get really great interest rates at great ratios, and then suddenly when I'm already spent 3-4 weeks with them, signing all the documents, suddenly they change. I just carried on for more than 2 years for me just trying to find a simple way to refinance this. And at the end of the day, when I actually looked at the calculation and figured out that the savings that I would be making by refinancing would all be taken up by the cost of the closing of those properties in the process of refinancing, but I thought for 4 years, all my profit is actually just going to disappear. This whole process came to an end, and I said, something else has to be done. I have to find a new way. And out of that, we found a new way, which John's going to show you right now.
Okay, so the way to buy properties, very similar if you've heard about seller financing, and that's where you essentially buy a property and the seller agrees to carry some of the paper on that loan. This is essentially similar to that, but you're buying the property subject to, so they call them subject to deals, the seller's existing loan being in place. So you're literally absorbing the loan that's already in place, and they're walking away from the deal, and you get to piggyback on their loan with their lower interest rates in a lot of cases, with a loan that is already further in the amortization schedule. And there's a right way to do what we call sub-2 properties, and there's a wrong way to do sub-2 properties. 2 considerations very quickly to do it right is, number 1, there is a body of legislation that protects the banks from fraud called dodd-frank legislation. It's got to be dodd-frank compliant. Number 2, you want to make sure that there's a due on sale clause in the mortgage. I apologize for that gap. We're long layover in Atlanta. So the due on sale clause is the language in the mortgage that says when that property transfers title to somebody else, the whole note is due at that particular time. And that's why loans get paid off when title is transferred. So we're going to show you how this works, okay? That's going to be compliant, Dodd-Frank, and defensible against the due on sale clause. Essentially, this is how it works. You have a $100,000 property. Let's say that that's just the value of the property for simplicity's sake. And the loan is $70,000 loan that's in place. Maybe it was set up on an originally 30-year mortgage, which is typical in the U.S., and it was at a 4% interest rate just for simplicity's sake. We're 5 years into that loan, so now there's only 25 years left to pay on it. And let's say that the mortgage on this loan is, for simplicity's sake, $600 per month. Well, in this case, this seller could take that particular house, sell the house to you by putting the property into a trust, and they would assign the beneficial interest of that trust, 90% of it, over to you as the investor. They retain 10% so that they're compliant for Dodd-Frank and the due on sale clause. They're still an owner of the property, but you assume all financial benefit and 100% control of the property. So now that loan will stay in their name. You absorb that $600 loan payment and rent it out, let's say for $1,000 in this particular case, which is very typical, and you keep that spread until that loan pays off, which is going to be in 25 years. So you have a better than U.S. investor loan, which is typically 75% LTV, which is the best U.S. investors can get at maybe a 4.5% rate at the time of this recording. With the subject to deal, you're turning the clock back essentially to when the rates were even better. So a lot of times you're securing the better interest rates on a loan that's already been further paid off. The trick here is the proper paperwork to do it in a way that's defendable against the due on sale clause, and also you want to be compliant for dodd-frank regulation. And you want to make sure that you do it in a way that the seller feels comfortable, obviously, with you absorbing the loan. And there's a safe way to do that and a very transparent way to present that so everybody knows what's happening in that transaction. If you're really curious about that, then look us up. Our contact information is below the video in the details, and we'd be glad to give you more information about how to do those.